Hi, everyone. I got Fluffy tonight because he was playing with good old chocolate and they ran downstairs. And I thought, wow, they're going to continue to be running after each other. And a bug came skittering across the floor. It's becoming spring. And this stopped this little clown in his tracks. That insect stopped him, and that's why he's here. And I thought, there is something now about feeling like we're all living inside of some sort of bubble and all praying that everything will go back to the way it was a few months ago. But are you getting the feeling that nothing will ever be the same again? That there is something about this moment as if timelines, I said 3 or 4 shows ago, it felt then like they had exploded and everything was waiting to fall into place. And now it feels like we're on a completely new timeline. And that our every second seems to be first a worry about what's coming. And second, what is life going to be like? Quarantines may be like this for another year, off and on, not just up to May or June. And that's coming from some of the material that I'm going to share with you tonight about the concern that COVID-19 is going to be coming in cycles. So I'm going to let this precious life form down that I love so much, and I'm glad that he's in this space and not outdoors, and that Chocolate will probably come in with his tail waving like he does. After my live stream last week, some of you wrote asking about my pronunciation of the anti-malarial, anti-lupus, and anti-rheumatoid arthritis drugs that President Trump thinks might help fight COVID-19. He pronounces them hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. However, since the drugs evolved from synthetic forms of quinine, I wanted to check the medical pronunciation before last week's broadcast. I do that often, going to the pronunciation videos. And I listened to a pronunciation video by pharmacist Tony Guerra, who works with all kinds of prescriptions. And he's at the Des Moines Area Community College.
Hydroxychloroquine, brand Plaquenil. Hydroxychloroquine, keen, okene, chloroquine, E-chloroquine, droxychloroquine, hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine is an anti-malarial. Hydroxychloroquine.
And that couple in Florida that I reported about last week, who drank soda mixed with chloroquine or chloroquine phosphate, they were using that chemical in their fish tank. The husband died and she was hospitalized. They thought that they were taking the same anti-malarial drug that President Trump said on TV might be a game changer in the fight against COVID-19. But without clinical trials to learn what might work and what doesn't, the husband's death was a warning to not take any anti-malarials without a prescription from a medical doctor. Adding some support for using the anti-malarials as treatment, France decided this week to permit, quote, temporary authorization to allow really sick patients with COVID-19 to try using the anti-malarials. Meanwhile, there is more distressing news from China. National Public Radio reported on Friday, March 27th, that 5 to 10% of Wuhan residents who had tested positive for COVID-19 and then recovered are now testing positive again a second time for the deadly coronavirus. Adding to the danger is that these second-time infected people don't have any symptoms. But even without symptoms, these asymptomatic people will continue to transmit the virus to other people. It's like we're now back in a world where you don't know anything about what could be being carried around you. It is sort of like the worst kind of sci-fi movie that you could imagine. And does this mean that there are so many people who are carrying the COVID virus that have no symptoms and they're not being tested and no one knows that they are spilling out this virus? Does that mean that there will be another round of infection causing wave after wave after wave of COVID-19 until there is a successful vaccine? All of that could explain why the Hollywood Reporter headline on March 27th, China shuts down all cinemas, again. China had reopened at least 600 movie theaters since March 20th. And then suddenly, Beijing's Film Bureau ordered on Friday, March 27th, that all movie theaters go back into shutdown, probably because COVID-19 has not gone away. And I want to show you, here is today's New York Times, April 1, 2020. And down here on the front page is a very important article. Silent infections, hobbling battle to thwart virus. As many as 25% of people infected with the new coronavirus may not show symptoms, according to CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield. Further, he said, quote, "This helps explain how rapidly this virus continues to spread across the country," close quote. Now here, going back a month ago to February 27th, 2020, here is the New York Times, and here are my blue lines that I thought were so important that went with this headline, even without showing symptoms, transmitting to others. And on that day, a whole month ago, it was the same concern. People who are completely asymptomatic. You could have 1,000 people. Do they infect 1,000 other people in 3 weeks? And those 1,000 times 1,000, and nobody knows that anybody's sick and people are still spreading? Well, when you go down to where my blue marks are in the newspaper, the article was focused on comments by Dr. Michael Osterholm, director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. Quote, this is Dr. Osterholm, "We could be missing a great number of cases that don't fit into the criteria of having symptoms and testing positive. I suspect that there are a number of additional cases in the country that are transmitting this virus, just like we're seeing in other countries," close quote. Well, a month ago, on February 27th, when those words were first published, the United States was only testing people with symptoms. Meanwhile, all of those people carrying COVID-19 without symptoms have unknowingly spread and spread and spread the stealthy, invisible coronavirus that seems to now be lurking everywhere. This insidious enemy is ready to explode on that mountain of cases in New York and other places that the United States has not yet been able to flatten. I urge every one of you, wherever you are, stay in, don't go out, perhaps try to order in. If we could get through the next 4 weeks in the United States with everyone staying in, it might make a difference on those huge numbers that they are now expecting today, up to 240,000 deaths. Let's all try to stay inside of these strange bubbles with the idea that maybe it will make a difference on other people living around you, and even people that are in other cities that are your loved ones. Meanwhile, in spite of all of this that's happening, and that is so difficult, mysterious noises and booms continue to be reported without explanation. On Monday night, March 30th, this week, at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time in Philadelphia, there was an explosive boom sound. In Ivyland, Warrington, and Warminster, Pennsylvania, 30 miles north of downtown Philadelphia. My daughter, Laura Howe Mead, and her family live in Ivyland. Laura left me a voicemail, "Mom, we just had a huge boom here." And my 5-year-old granddaughter, Hannah, recorded, Mom, the boom shook the house." I called them back and recorded my conversation first with Hannah, then Laura, and then her husband, John Mead.
I heard like a big boom.
Did you feel anything?
Yeah, it shook the house. It scared Mommy, and we both scared each other.
Mommy, what did you hear and feel?
Yeah, I was laying in bed, and it sounded like the house exploded next door to us, like exploded either behind me or above us. It was so loud, you felt it inside you. I jumped out of bed.
And then what did you do when you jumped out?
Hannah and I ran into each other in the hallway and scared each other. We did. We ran right into each other. Then we both screamed. And I posted on Nextdoor, "Loud boom, what was that?"
I was on the couch watching a movie, and all of a sudden I felt this big bang. It felt like it came from down, up, like a bomb feeling from underneath. Shook the whole house. I don't know what that was. And then on Facebook, asking anybody if they heard like a big boom, a lot of people started responding. Did you hear that? What I was told, it was a transformer. I don't think it was a transformer, because we would have heard sirens, cops. I don't know. It was pretty scary.
The strange, loud booms, metallic scrapings, choruses of trumpets since at least 2011. They are such a persistent mystery. And I hope that any of you who are hearing someplace and maybe haven't recorded yet, or you think it's not going to be easy to record, go ahead and try. If you're hearing any of these penetrating sounds that you can't identify, let me know by emailing me at earthfiles@earthfiles.com. Just always think of a reporter who files news about the Earth. Earthfiles@earthfiles.com. Hopefully, you all will keep your cell phones handy to video these strange sounds wherever they might occur, and to record unexplained aerial phenomena in the skies. I bring this up because I have gotten probably half a dozen emails from different parts of the world just in the last approximately 10 days. I'm going to read you just one to give you an idea, because what I'm going to read from Germany, I have been getting videos from the United States, from England, that are very similar. And I would love to know if any of you out there, even people in the whistleblower category, have any idea what this relates to. Dear Linda, I just would like to report to you that presently something very strange is going on in Germany. Every evening between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., I walk with my dog in rural fields. Every night, I observe many strange lights in the sky. They look like satellites with the brightness of Venus, but they can alter the brightness right in front of me and sometimes vanish while I'm observing. Some lights fly a regular trajectory. Some fly zigzag, and some in a kind of formation of 3. Now, I have something very similar. In fact, somebody has sent me video. They said that it was very faint, and it is, but it shows pairs of lights in the sky. And this was one particular video that came from Washington State, another from Colorado. The videos are difficult to show because they're not very clear. But the question that everybody is raising and seeing some of these videos, even though they're not very good, is why in these various parts of the world, in the United States and Germany and England, would there be any pairs of lights that are moving, brightening, dimming? And if we are back to the issue of drones, what are the drones doing? Especially at a time where in all of these countries, we are all engulfed in fighting the horrible COVID-19, and everybody is supposed to be indoors. Who or what would be behind pairings of lights, pulsing of lights, flashing of lights, dimming of lights? And last night, I got a call from Alex Peterson in Hagler, Nebraska, who worked with me on the drones in Colorado and in Nebraska. And he said last night, Linda, I'm calling you because I've got what is clearly over my ranch. Nobody else lives there. It's his ranch. And he said it was a red, green, and white lights, and it was clearly some kind of a drone. And I just wanted to share while it was fresh, things are happening in the sky that raise the questions. Who would be behind if it's drone activity or what? And what would be being monitored? So, again, use your cell phones, use video cameras, but I just want to make one really sincere appeal. Use a tripod so that your camera, whatever the situation, that the frame stays steady so that the motion in the frame we know is not the camera moving. That would be a wonderful help. So now, Peggy, let's dive into questions.
Hi, Linda. This first question came from Jeannie K. She sent in a question via email, and she would like to know, what does a typical day look like for Linda as a researcher?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing that happens every morning at 7 a.m. is that white clown, Fluffy, he comes usually right onto my back, and he is like an alarm clock, and he has a certain meow, and it's get up, get up, get up. And when I get up, the first thing now that I do, didn't always used to be like this, it's COVID, the COVID era. I guess that's what we're in now, the COVID era. I turn on TV to see what CNN or MSNBC are reporting around the world. And it is a very strange thing now, where once upon a time, where there were so many things on calendars and you had that adrenaline that I've got to make this deadline and this deadline and this deadline, and so many conferences and so many things have been pushed off or canceled till next year, that I'm now concentrating on a tremendous amount of research work, possibly for a new book. And when I move into that mode, it's like moving into a tunnel. I've done it 4 times with the 4 books, and I'm getting into that because I'm going to try to take advantage of this forced time from not traveling and not going anywhere on 2 projects that I'm actually working on. And because you are the people I love on this planet who come on Wednesday nights, whenever I can first make announcements about other work that I'm doing, I will tell you first. But right now, I'm in this mode of going into the tunnel. And that has been one of the big facets, I guess, of my career. I am a person who, when I concentrate, it is sort of like going into a tunnel, and I take off the phones. I don't answer phones. I can go 2 days without looking at email. Because when you write, and when you're in that stage where you are trying to grab onto structure and what images and all of that, you have to work uninterrupted. And for me, it can go for 18 hours without any break. That's sort of the mode that I'm moving into now. When I'm in production, let's say on a video like Antarctica, the alien secrets beneath the ice, that was a project it took 2 years to do, and simultaneously, while I was up against really difficult things and working in what would be an editing mode, it's keeping Earthfiles.com going. It was doing also Phenomenon Radio. It was doing Coast to Coast. It was doing all kinds of conferences. Last year I was on 46 airplanes. So that is a completely different chapter where you're balancing so many pieces all of the time. And thinking, when I'm in the airplane, thinking about what I'm going to do as an intro there. When I'm working at the computer and things are coming in from all over the place. I get, on average, 200 to 400 emails on any sort of average day. And it's a question of going through and seeing what relates to work I'm doing, to friends, to colleagues that I'm working on projects. And so I would say that before the COVID era, I was constantly balancing a whole lot of things all of the time and having to do it around travel. And often I have thought of myself as that clown at the rodeo who comes out with the 12 sticks and he starts spinning them, and then he puts a glass plate on top, and the idea is, can he get 12 plates on the sticks before the whole thing falls down? So before COVID, now with COVID, move into where there's more still time and less travel, and a lot of phone calls with a lot of people who email, who want to share for the first time in their life. And this is maybe one of the best parts of being a journalist in the field of other intelligences in this universe that interact with humans. When somebody, hundreds of people, their first sentence to me is, I have never told anyone this, but I feel I can trust you, Linda. That is so meaningful, because to have the career that I've had in journalism and producing, writing, directing, editing, and reporting, the one thing that I have always tried to do is to have everybody know the pressure of fact and truth is what I've always been guided by, even if it's been very difficult in subjects where governments work overtime to keep us from knowing the truth. And that on the other side of reports, whether you're dealing with animal mutilations or human abductions or crop formations or a myriad of other mysteries, are human beings who have lived sometimes with an interaction with a shadow in their room, or beings at the foot of their bed, or remember going up in a beam, and they are terrified that if they talk publicly, that the human world will attack them as being crazy or criticism. And that is, in many ways, was generated out of World War II, when our government decided that they had to keep UFOs and ETs at an arm's length distance from any public knowing. And one of the ways that they did that was to make it so embarrassing ridicule about anything relating to UFO and ETs that we now, 70 years later, people are still afraid. And so, these letters, Linda, I have never told anyone this. They are powerful stories. I am working in pieces, or part of some of what I'm working on now. I do want to share them more. So out of all of this, I think you can see there is no such thing in my life, and never has been, as this day is the same as this day as this. It is all of what I've described and more, constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly trying to take a lot of information and distill it so that I can communicate it with you all here at Ancient Aliens, at other TV shows, radio, books, and Earthfiles.com on the web, which I hope you all go to like you do on Wednesday nights. We've had a very interesting series going on there having to do with the maze, the web of all of the current world relationship, with the fact that we're not alone in this universe, and more high strangeness keeps evolving in astrophysical research, and yet we still sit on a planet being kept at an arm's length distance from what the truth is about our relationship as a species that was manipulated on Earth by others that have come and gone. And there's nothing that drives me more than wanting to find facts and share them with you. So thank you for asking. I will now try to focus a little more, but at least that question about what is life like and daily life for me, you can understand I have to juggle a lot. Okay, Peggy.
We have a viewer that would like to know, have you ever heard of a crocodile being that looked like a bodybuilder?
Brad and I went into a book that I have that has been drawn by a man named Chase, C-H-A-C-E. I've had it for a very long time, and I'm going to show you right now his drawings of the tall, go ahead, yes. This is what's being asked about, and I wanted to share this because that big hulking football player like Reptoid on the right has been described in some human abduction cases. The face on the left is a little bit more refined, does not come with the body specifically, but in the work that I've done, I have had people who have been taken up in beams of light, and they end up in a room and they say it looks like two lizards are standing in front of me and they are wearing white lab coats. What are those lizards? Which is a finer, the people who have had that experience talk about how the skin is very finely pebbled, the way you think of a lizard skin, versus the large character on the right would perhaps be more in the standing up alligator-ish kind of world, or maybe not, but is definitely reptilian. And these are the variations that people run into and draw and report. And then when you say, do you know what the relationship is, as a person, an experiencer who has been in front of both types, do you have any idea what the relationship is between, let's say, the lizards and the alligators? And people don't have a clear distinction. So in terms of these big reptilian ones, if you go to my book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1, Facts and Eyewitnesses, I have a very large taxonomy of drawings that have been done by people going all the way back, I think, to the end of the 50s, up to when I produced that book in the 90s. None of those people knew each other or know each other. I'm the only crossing of their communications. And when you look at that taxonomy, most of it is in color in Facts and Eyewitnesses. You realize that there are definite categories of non-humans that are interacting with humans over a long period of time. And the large football-bodied ones and the thinner, smaller lizards, they're part of that taxonomy. Okay, what about another?
A lot of viewers would like to know your thoughts on the Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, I was there in August working with Prometheus Studios on the Skinwalker Ranch series that they're now doing. And I can tell you, as I was driven to the ranch for the very first time, the first thing that hit me is I'm looking at iron-rich soil everywhere. The hills, the bluffs, filled with iron. And iron can interact with magnetic fields. I also did research and found that in the state of Utah, going back to the 1960s, there was a discovery of molybdenum under the area of Vernal in the Uinta Basin. Now, molybdenum, we would not have DNA as we know it without molybdenum. It plays a crucial role in DNA. Molybdenum is also used in what we would call advanced technologies for a variety of reasons. It's very special, and it is not tremendously common on the Earth. And it was fascinating for me to find that molybdenum is under Vernal. I have talked with some geophysicists about it. Do they have maps that would show how much or how deep or all of that? And in the process of just trying to find out what is the current status of any mining efforts to get the molybdenum in Vernal, and that seems unclear. It made me remember a person who worked at Martin Marietta outside of Denver, Colorado, when I lived and worked there for about 15 years. When I was married, and I was director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, and that period. After I had produced A Strange Harvest about the animal mutilations, I got a call from an engineer working at Martin Marietta, and he said, I would like to meet with you and tell you something I think is important. And we talked about a number of things. Portals, he knew information about portals, but he said, back after World War II, or around World War II, up in the Rocky Mountains, at the Climax mine, it was molybdenum. The Climax mine is molybdenum. And we were mining all the way back. And he said, I've seen reports that there were craft of unknown origin that came over that molybdenum mine and put beams down. They were seen by eyewitnesses back in the late 40s, early 50s. And he said, one of the speculations, but it's not clear, were those craft molecularly extracting molybdenum up those beams into those craft? Why were they there? Why were they putting beams down into the molybdenum? Well, then the same question, when you jump back, Skinwalker has been a strange, strange place going all the way back at least 200 or 300 years, where the Utes and the Navajo, they're the ones who coined the word that meant skinwalker. That there were shape-shifting. There were the wolves that would appear and disappear. The skinwalker concept of something today we would use the terms seems to come from this dimension into here for a while. Maybe it looks like a wolf that grabs the head of a calf, which back when it was the Sherman Ranch, they saw that happen. This very unusual large wolf that came and grabbed a calf by the nose, and Sherman shot a whole bunch of bullets into what he thought was this big wolf, and remembered the wolf just staring at him and walking off, and they tracked the wolf's big tracks to a place where suddenly they just disappeared. So Skinwalker Ranch is a place where the anomalies are around things like beams and lights and red orbs and craft coming down where they have been seen, animals that seem to shapeshift, a number of phenomena that would fall into the category of a portal. Does the metal that is underground there have anything to do with why that particular Uinta Basin might be used as a portal coming in and out from other dimensions with other dimensional agendas and affecting the humans and the cattle and the other earth life that has been there? It is a very, very strange place. It feels strange being there. And the TV series that is unfolding now on Prometheus about the Skinwalker Ranch is that a lot of scientists are very interested now in doing a lot of different kinds of tests. And so, as the TV series unfolds, we should be seeing some of what they have been learning there. Another question?
Linda, I'd love to know what your thoughts on the Mandela effect are.
I will drink some water in this time of allergies, and I will answer. Get my notes here. I've had a lot of people over several years ask me about the Mandela effect. I have seen some people in universities dismiss it. I found some material that I thought sort of addressed both the strangeness of it, how it's described, how it got the name Mandela effect. And I just wanted to read something to set the tone tonight on this. This is a article that was written in Mysterious Universe specifically by a scholar about the Mandela effect. We might as well start with the phenomena's namesake, and that lies with the great South African anti-apartheid revolutionary, political leader, and philanthropist Nelson Mandela. It seems that a good portion of the population of this Western world believes that Mandela died while languishing in prison in the 1980s while serving a 27-year sentence on charges of conspiracy to overthrow the state. In fact, while Mandela did serve his time in prison, he was eventually released, and he played a big role in world events up until he died in 2013. He died at his home from complications of a respiratory infection. Yet, this is not how many people strongly remember this at all. And there are those who are adamant, and they will argue forcefully, that Mandela did not die in that prison, and that they had even read in a history book and seen on the news what they remember. It was when paranormal researcher Fiona Broom voiced this jolting discrepancy online that plenty of people chimed in to say they seemingly misremembered the exact same thing. And from there, countless other examples came to be called a mass false memories phenomena known as the Mandela effect. They also call it mass memory discrepancy effect. Now, we jump to another one because I think this is really interesting. I'd heard this, and suddenly you began, as you read about the Mandela effect, having to do with parts of a population who are adamant that whatever is the current accepted history on something, they remember it differently. A world leader who attracted talk of the Mandela effect is former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who served from 1940 to 1945 during World War II, and again from 1951 to 1955, and he was most notable for boldly leading England to victory in World War II. He was seen as one of the greatest wartime leaders of the 20th century and a larger-than-life historic figure. Churchill was also well known for his bombastic speeches, which served to rally the people and are also highly quotable. But do we remember them correctly? One of Churchill's most rousing and famous speeches of all was given during the height of World War II, when he expressed his intentions to do whatever was necessary to fight what he called the Nazi scourge. You probably know the speech. It is famous for a line, quote, "We will fight them on the beaches," close quote. That is what most people remember, and which has been quoted again and again, an icon from one of the most powerful speeches of World War II. If you have been paying attention in this article, you then know that no, that is not what Churchill really said. He actually said these words, quote, "We shall fight on the beaches," leaving out, "We will fight them." And here is the entire section of the speech from a transcript. Quote, "Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fall. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old." That is the actual Winston Churchill paragraph, in which it seems a small thing, but that some people have argued to fistfights. He said, "We will fight them on the beaches." But the transcript of his original speech is not. It could be that some people talked with Winston Churchill and he was talking about the speech, or he talked after, and maybe he said, "We will fight them," and maybe there's a legitimate and logical reason for why some people remembered them and the true speech didn't have the word them. But the big box of why the Mandela effect has come into the whole issue of UFOs and ETs and world history and everything. If there have been other intelligences who have been influencing and behind the scenes, manipulating all kinds of affairs on our planet for maybe 270 million years, then what about changing timelines? There are whistleblowers who say that one of the instruments of war out there in this universe, it has nothing to do with bullets. It has to do with manipulating timelines. And if manipulating timelines is something that other advanced intelligences, not Homo sapien, have been able to do, and they do it in conflict with each other, and we poor Homo sapien sapien on the surface of Earth are the ones who are left out of all of this, but we are the ones who see, we are the ones who hear, we are the ones who live the surface life of Earth, while other forces are apparently underground in other planets and beyond. So it is we humans who may legitimately have had one experience, seen one event, and then do other intelligences have the ability and the power to change, splice, insert, for reasons that have to do with their geopolitical territorial conflicts with other advanced intelligences, events on Earth? We don't have an answer. And at this point, I do not see how Homo sapiens sapien could ever prove such a time manipulation. But there are people in physics who have told me that, yes, they have been involved in time manipulation experiments. So we come full circle through all of the arguments about the Mandela effect back to the same crossroads that all of us are in. We are a life form on the surface of this planet that was manipulated, brought into standing up humanoid form by intelligences that are 1,000 or more years beyond us. And what they want, what they do with their genetic manipulations of this planet, what they do with holograms that we cannot tell from the world around us, what they do with their ability to be invisible within 6 feet and you would never be able to know they were there. And perhaps their ultimate physical technology is that they can neutralize gravity. They can neutralize gravity down to a point source up to a whole huge pyramid. In that physics and the ability to mix and match realities and manipulate time, you have to at least look at that big box before you completely dismiss some of the arguments in the Mandela effect. There might have been several realities simultaneously, and humans are just the humble observers who try to report without any understanding of the big, vast, huge box that this planet and this solar system is in, from the point of view of intelligences that are 1,000 or more years advanced. So it's another mystery. It's not ever determined. For some reason, we never seem to be able to prove, except like this article, that Winston Churchill transcript, it is a proof. And Peggy, do we have one more short question? And then I have something very beautiful to share.
I have a question from Wayne. He emailed this question in, and he would like to know, what is the point of our existence if we're just an experiment or just alien food? Why bother trying to do anything with regards to evolving our souls?
That is the most perfect question set up to what I have planned to share with all of you at the end of tonight's program that relates to that whole question. We're depressed. It feels almost like, will there be a world left after COVID? The questions of why keep going? Why keep evolving the souls? This past weekend, on March 29th, I received an email from a dear and longtime friend who lives in Devizes in England. Her name is Jill Nicholas. Starting in 1992, she and her husband Rob, with their wonderful border collies, have walked miles with me in fields of wheat and barley and rapeseed while we were exploring beautiful and mysterious crop formations in those early 90s when it was magic in the Vale of Pusey. Also in that same vale are the ancient stone circles of Avebury and a little south, the magnificent Stonehenge. Well, last summer, we were together again in England, not because we were in lots of extraordinary crop formations. They have sort of faded. But I was there to speak at the conference in Manchester. And Rob and Jill and Enki is the current collie. We walked in the fields. And Rob even let me pilot. I got to, for a couple of hours, do this on one of those long canal boats in the Kennet and Avon Canal that runs through the Vale of Pusey. It's beautiful. And Jill has always been sensitive to frequencies in the unseen. And we talked about the information that I have been receiving from a variety of military and intel whistleblowers who for some time have been warning me about the years 2020 to 2026. Revolutionary and perhaps apocalyptic, and as Army Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso told me, Linda, there is a new world coming if you can take it. And we talked about what he meant, and he meant completely different than what we have known on this planet. I walk a very difficult path as an investigative journalist. I care about reporting facts and truth. And Jill and I talked about how ironic that we are now caught in geopolitical forces around the earth that are attacking truth in all directions in order to sustain and increase their money and power. It's as if the powerful money changers in the temples 2,000 years ago are now writ large on a planetary scale. But I never give up on light and truth prevailing. And Jill and I talked about the physics of light. And we all experience photons in space and time. However, there is no space-time for a photon. It experiences the entire universe as a single point. So it is possible that a single photon experiences all of time as a single moment. Jill and I share a similar concept about the creation force behind all of this and the planting of souls in a variety of universes with one goal: evolution back to what I call the divine field. In physics, a field is a region in which each point is affected by a force. So for me, the divine field is the force affecting every point of matter, space, time, dimensions, parallel universes. It is the force affecting everything. And it is divine because its goal is spiritual growth of all souls. And on Sunday, March 29th, here is the email I received from Jill in Devizes, England. Linda, hope you are well and safe. Just wondering if you would like to take part in this massive global meditation. It is a lovely video which explains all. With much love and rainbow light, Jill, Rob, and Enki. And that YouTube address that Jill included at the bottom of her email that you can see right now is what I want to share with all of you. Saturday, April 4th, 2020, around the world. Everybody here tonight, please, 7:45 p.m. Pacific, 8:45 p.m. Mountain, 9:45 p.m. Central, 10:45 p.m. Eastern, all at the same time, 3:45 a.m. April 5th, England, 5:45 a.m. April 5th, Moscow, Russia, 10:45 a.m. April 5th, Beijing, China, 4:45 April 5th, Cairo, Egypt. All of us in all of these places at the same time. That's what we need. And for more information, go to 2012portal.blogspot.com. Remember, last week I ended on that with, this is before I got the email from Jill and saw this extraordinarily beautiful video that we all need so much at this time, with the idea that if we all on this planet at the same second, the same minutes on Saturday, and we're all concentrating on banishing COVID 2019, switching this timeline that seems like it is becoming more and more unstable to something that is beautiful, like those images. And that would be the reason for all of us at all of those different times, which are the same second on the planet that is round in all the time zones. All of those times, all of us together, concentrating on a completely COVID-19 absent, banished future. And with that, Peggy, you have one more question.
This question comes from our chat tonight. AJ Walls would love to know, what's your happiest memory from your time investigating high strangeness?
In many ways, the one that comes to my mind first is that experience when I was 21 years old in the mountains in Idaho, getting ready for, of all things, matter and material, to be in the Miss America pageant so I could get scholarship money for school. And something, the divine field, wanted me to have an education and a new experience with light. And it was coming down from that mountain and seeing all of the flowers turn into pulsing white light with orchid sparks. And the sun was going down behind the big mountain up in the Salmon River country. And so you could see the first little stars, and they began to pulse in exactly the white and the orchid light as the flowers all around me. And then something, I think of it as the divine field. Something raised my own hands up to my own face. And this thought voice that has been with me since I was a young child and has saved me and protected me and guided me, that same voice, you are one with the light is one with you, and you are in the hands of God forever. And it felt warm, something pressing like warm jello against my hands in front of my own face. And then there was a relaxation. And I have never, ever been the same since. It left me at age 21. You look out and you see a forest fire, or you see a campfire, you see trees, you see stars, you see a mountain. And that experience showed me like a gift. If you lift up the surface of the matter world, it's all pulsing light. How does it go through these terrible periods like what we are going through now, and World War II? And there are so many horrible periods. But Homo sapiens sapien has a really, really strong soul. And coming back to the question, all of the questions. That was tremendous joy that I have never forgotten, and it has kept me going through my life. And that there is a feeling that it is worth trying to do the most and the best and the kindest and with love for light as much as you can, because there really are souls in each of us. There is a soul, and it's worth fighting for. I love all of you. I hope we will be able to keep doing this on Wednesday nights. We are headed for a really rough time. So add prayers for every soul out there. I'll see you next week.